Hi, I'm Joe Leitmann with the World Bank's Global Facility for Disaster Reduction and Recovery, and we're here today with Emma Lovell, who's a researcher with the Risk and Resilience Program at the Overseas Development Institute. So Emma, we know that the first responders after a disaster are typically households and the communities where they live. Tell us about this concept of self-recovery and why it's important.
So self-recovery is the inevitable process that households go through after a disaster, recognizing that they often do that with no to little external support. In fact, it's been estimated that less than 30% of households affected by disasters receive any international assistance after a disaster, and most of that is in terms of temporary housing or assistance to families displaced by disasters. Self-recovery recognises the inevitable process that they go through and their own needs and priorities in terms of how they build back after the disaster. This often tends to focus initially on shelter recovery, but quite quickly tends to move towards livelihood recovery and other aspects that may be critical to their recovery, such as health, water, sanitation and hygiene, and other aspects that will help promote their longer-term well-being.
How can we better reach marginalized and vulnerable communities that normally don't benefit from recovery?
So if we're serious about meeting priority 4 of the Sendai framework for disaster risk reduction and supporting households in terms of building back better and recovery, it's really important that we recognise their own needs, priorities and capacities, and the fact that these might change over time. And so interventions need to be flexible, they need to respond to the local context, and they need to be working with communities to help understand what the local priorities and context are. It's also really important that we understand how different factors intersect to create different exclusionary factors and inequalities, and ensure that policies and programming respond to and take an intersectional approach to vulnerability reduction and resilience building in order to ensure that no one is left behind.